Here's a subject that has been absolutely beat to death with the Banshee, and it's an ongoing subject that goes on and on and on forever, and there will never be a final answer to it. That question is, what are the best mods to get for my quad? What are the best mods to get for my Banshee? Well, there are no best mods. It's your opinion. It's your quad. It's whatever you want to do to it. So if you're asking for someone else's opinion, that's one thing, but you can't ask what are the best things that I can do. You can ask more specific questions than that, but it all depends on your riding style, the conditions you're riding in, all that sort of thing. Now, the order that I upgraded in was, from the best of my memory, the first thing I got was tires. That's because I rode on the concrete a lot and wore out the tires in absolutely no time. I think my tires lasted like a year and a half or something like that. So the first thing I got were tires. After that, I found a really sweet deal on my front suspension. It's a Hydrodynamics, I forget the series number, but it came with the stainless steel brake lines, stainless steel brake clamps, the A-arms upper and lower, and the shocks. And I paid like $720 for it shipped. I believe that the company I bought it from listed the wrong price on eBay, and so I jumped on that opportunity. Normally you can't even pick up A-arms for that much. So that was the next thing I got. I got that because it was a basically an opportunistic kind of situation where I just couldn't pass it up. I actually even borrowed money to get them just because it was such a sweet deal. I didn't want to miss it. Another reason why I chose to do front suspension first was because I was jumping the quad, and I believe it was my front right A-arm. The stock A-arms are made very, very poorly, and if you're going to jump a quad, I wouldn't recommend doing it on stock suspension. But basically, where the ball joint is now, the ball joint is built in on a stock ATV, or on a stock Banshee, as a lot of you know. And so I jumped, and that just folded in, and this tire just collapsed in. And so I bent it back and rode it still, which I probably shouldn't have done, but it wasn't for very long, and I just wanted to finish out the weekend. And didn't jump it anymore, and decided that the suspension was definitely the next thing to be replaced. So after that, next thing I got was my axle. It's a G-force axle. It's adjustable. You can do +2 or +4. There's a spacer on the inside right here. That's a spacer, and you can move that spacer to the outside if you want it to be +2, or on the inside if you want it to be +4. This was $100 shipped or $110 shipped, which is a smoking deal in my opinion. It's a heavy duty axle nut on there. It hasn't come loose. All I did was Loctite the Allen key in place. After that, I really got into wheelies and stuff, so I bought a new front sprocket. 1341 gearing is what I'm running, which is a little bit lower than stock. 1441 I believe is stock. So that was the next thing that I bought. Then my top end blew. The reason my top end blew was because I wasn't aware of how bad exhaust leaks can hurt your engine. I had the stock exhaust on there at the time, and the engine blew because I was riding in the winter, and so it was cold on top of it. I didn't know much about jetting. I figured it'd be fine because it was stock power wise. Well, that was a mistake. So after that, I hadn't realized that it was an exhaust leak that caused the engine to blow up yet. I figured you just got to rebuild a two-stroke every 2 years, which is not the case at all unless you're racing like competition and stuff. So got a K&N filter when I did the rebuild. Did a little bit more research on jetting and understood a little bit better. Then after the K&N, I did the Airbox Mod, which I just drilled like I think 4 3/4 inch or 1/2 inch holes in the top of the box. That was just to allow a little bit extra airflow. I removed the snorkel, and then was racing, and the lower rod bearing on my Banshee let go. I have a video of that when that happened, and that sucked because that was very, very expensive to replace. I spent about $1,000. I did a couple upgrades here and there, but it was right around $1,000 for the new crank, the new top end, the head to get cut, the new pistons, the jet kit, which I actually didn't get a jet kit, and I do not recommend getting jet kits at all. Just buy the individual jets that you need. Buy whatever size, do your research, buy whatever size you think you need. Buy about 3 or 4 above that and 3 or 4 below that. They're only like $1 or $1.50 each on Rocky Mountain. So check that out. Also, Fast Racing has them for sale. I like to go with whatever company's closest because I don't like waiting for shipping. So just do your research, find out whichever one you want, and go with that. So after the air intake, or after the 4 mil rebuild, shortly before that, I actually got the exhaust, but then I think I only rode once with the exhaust on there with it rejetted, and that's when the lower bearing let go. So after I did the 4 mil rebuild, I had the exhaust on there. When I did the 4 mil rebuild, I also did the timing advance and then the shift star mod as well. And so I basically went from a stock powered machine to a 4 mil stroker with an exhaust and a timing advance with the head cut, so the compression's up. And so it went from a stock machine to, borderline needs to be a drag ATV with a, a longer axle and all that kind of stuff, or a longer swing arm and all that. So there's the order that I went in. Then I got the Nerf guards, was the very last thing I got. There was little stuff here and there like the grips and the kill switch or the tether and all that kind of stuff, but that's the gist of it basically. So do your research and find out what you want. Don't go by what somebody else says. Do what makes you happy. It's your quad. Spend a lot of money on it, a lot of time on it. So as for best mods go, it's whatever you want.